The channel just crossed the 30,000 subscribers, and that's amazing. Thank you all for your support. Without you, this channel wouldn't exist. 30,000 subscribers is of course nothing compared to some of the big automotive channels, but I noticed that you, the viewers, engage a lot with the videos. But that makes sense, right? Usually you only watch a 15-minute long video about car values if you're really interested in that particular car. Now this also means that the number of questions I receive has been growing, so I figured it would be a good idea to make a Q&A video. I made a YouTube and Instagram post asking you to submit questions, and we will cover a large part of them in this video. Among other things, we will cover the car that I drive currently, the US versus the European market, and cars that are good value for money. So let's start with question number 1. I don't really follow that market as I'm not naturally drawn towards those cars. But don't get me wrong, I think that there are a bunch of cool cars in that market, but I would need to do a ton of research before making a video about them. From an objective standpoint, JDM cars would be a great addition to the channel as values for some cars exploded, and it's certainly interesting to see how these will develop over time. There are quite some articles and videos claiming that the market is in a bubble. I might do a video on that car as I receive a lot of questions about it, but the market size indeed is quite small. Most of the time there are between 10 and 20 cars for sale, and that's really on the edge. It's probably sufficient to get a rough estimate of the price trend, but it's not enough for any further analysis. Another problem with the Murcielago market and those type of cars in general is that the model year and the spec level have a very little effect on the price. Other things like the history of the car are becoming increasingly important, and these things are simply very difficult to capture in the data. Therefore, if I decide to make a video on the Murcielago market, it will most likely only cover the high-level price trend. I haven't owned any of the cars that featured on the channel, and that's quite unfortunate because the cars that make it to the channel tend to have a very high desirability factor. But what would I pick if I could have any of them? The answer fluctuates, but right now I would probably say the F12. The sound of that car is amazing and I really appreciate the clean lines. I tend to prefer these type of cars over the newer equivalents. The newer ones have a lot of sharp angles and folds, and I'm not such a fan of that. In my opinion, the F12 is then also better looking than the 812. So currently I drive an Audi A4 Allroad, and I'm by no means ashamed of it, but I feel that it might need an explanation given that it are usually Ferraris and Porsches that feature on the channel. I should say we, needed an everyday car that's easy to drive, has four-wheel drive, and has a slightly elevated ride height. The A4 Allroad simply ticked all of the boxes. As some of you know, I live in Finland, which means that roads are covered in ice and snow for a significant part of the year. The Allroad is by no means an off-roader, but the elevated ride height and quattro inspire a lot of confidence. You can tackle most roads and the bumps in them without any problem. Now I also considered more exciting cars like a Ford Focus RS, but those cars are simply not ideal during the winter. Of course you could make it work if you really wanted to, but it just means a bunch of extra hustle. The front bumper easily scrapes over the ice and it catches a lot of snow. Yet, the flip side of this is that the Focus RS is amazing to drive under normal conditions, something that the Allroad definitely isn't. It's very easy and boring to drive, but it fits with its purpose. So what cars would I love to own but don't? Well, obviously I would like to add a sports car to the garage, and the following cars are very high on the list. A manual 360, a GT4, a 997 GT3 and the new Emira. As you can see, they're all driver-focused cars, and they would then also be mainly used for that purpose. Stepping it up a bit in terms of budget, I would definitely consider a V12 Vantage S. It's such a timeless design, and with that V12 I think it really makes for a unique experience. Unfortunately, I'm not sure when any of these cars will make it to the garage. Cars over here are extremely expensive, and right now I simply can't justify such a large financial commitment, for the simple fact that I don't have any time to drive them. I have a full-time job and YouTube basically sucks up all the remaining time, but there's also a lot of work going on behind the scenes, but more about that in the next answer. This is a question that I get asked a lot, and I mean really a lot, but the honest answer is that I don't really know. With respect to Europe, I've been eyeballing it, and to me it seems that the price fluctuations are less severe than in the US, yet within Europe there are also significant differences. The UK market can, for example, deviate a lot from the German one. To solve some of this, I'm planning to also make analysis about the UK and German market. It will be very interesting to see how they relate to each other, and especially how they relate to the US market. Unfortunately though, these won't be available anytime soon, as I need to prioritize the work on some other background processes. What's by the way interesting to mention is that I actually started this channel with videos on the German market. I'm more familiar with that one, as that's the market I look at when I want to buy a car myself. Yet, I was surprised to find out that those videos were mainly watched by people from the US, so that's why I decided to focus on the US market. My data is based on used car websites and I do all my analysis in Python. Now a bunch of people asked me what cars I think will go up in value, but before I answer this question I need to highlight a few things. First, people ask this question all the time and I tell them that they should buy a car that they love. Buying a car only because you think it will go up in value is very risky, and if you only bought it with that purpose, you have a good chance of ending up with a piece of metal you don't care about. On the other hand, if you buy a car that you love with the hope that it might go up in value, you at least still have the emotional gain and connection to the car when things go south financially. Everybody should of course decide for themselves if this is applicable to their situation, but I'm a big advocate of this approach. Second, in my opinion, the channel is unique because it takes a data-driven approach to car values, and that also means that it's difficult for me to comment on cars for which I didn't look at the data. It would go against the whole idea that all of these claims should be based on data. On top of this comes that it's extremely difficult to forecast prices. Especially for cars that are bottomed out, you need much more data than I have to make a statistically sound forecast. I therefore tend to be cautious in my videos when I talk about price forecasts. Now against this background, so buy what you love and the data-driven approach, I think that there are some V12 Ferraris which came down a lot in price, bottomed and now start to increase again. I made a video 6 months ago with the title 4 reasons why the Ferrari FF and 599 are the next big thing. I highlighted then that especially the 599 and FF look like they were bottomed out. 1 month ago I showed you an update on those markets and that indeed showed that the price trends accelerated. The best deal can mean many things and it can mean different things to different people, but I'm going to interpret it as a car that offers good value for money relative to its competitors. And again, like I mentioned before, I can only base my answer on the data that I have. And based on that, I think that the AMG GTR and various McLaren models like the 650S are in quite a good spot. After their introduction, these cars took a massive financial hit, but prices stabilized significantly now. Having said that, this is based on the most recent videos for those models, and the situation might have changed since then, so I will update these models in the next coming months. I don't have any data on the RS3, but I've seen that they are priced over list, but I don't think that they will stay there. As far as I'm aware, it's a normal production run car and will follow a depreciation pattern that belongs to such a car. Nevertheless, older RS3s are still priced quite high compared to their peers, so I think that after the initial hit, values will come down at a slow pace. The RS2 market is unfortunately too small for any quantitative analysis, so I don't think that that car will feature on the channel anytime soon. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A and that it answered some of the questions that you might have had. As always, if you like a data-driven approach to analyzing car values but couldn't find the car you're interested in among the videos on the channel, let me know for which car you would like to see a video by commenting down below in the comment section. When there are enough requests for a certain car, I will make a video about it. Don't forget then to subscribe and to click on the notification button so you get notified when your requested analysis goes live. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you next week for a new analysis.